Sean here with BaseMint Comics, and in this episode I am going to talk about, so today actually starts a few days back. A few days back, a buddy of mine named Marty, who puts on a local show here about once a month, and he goes around to different comic shops, antique stores, stuff like that, and flyers them up with posters that he hand makes for these shows. And he tends to post about it on social media, and we've been pals long for years. And so he posted about going to a shop about 45 minutes from my house called Comics and More that I had never been to. And sadly, the owner of the shop announced that he was like no longer going to have a storefront. He was just doing shows and just didn't feel like running a shop anymore. So they were having this everything must go sale, and I was like, it's a shop in my area that like I've never been to, would like to check it out before it's gone for good. And but I felt bad. I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but it's like going to, first off, I thought everything would be like kind of picked over and it would be like bare bones, and I just feel kind of awkward going in there like I'm dancing on somebody's grave or picking somebody's bones like a vulture. But I decided to go to check it out, and was pleasantly surprised by how like great the shop was. I'm actually kind of bummed that it's going, but it sounds like dude's leaving on his own terms. So the owner's named Chris Brown, who's a super nice guy. Like right when I walked through the door, he was like, hey, and store was pretty busy. I should have done some videoing of me actually going through the stuff in the store, but it was busy. It was tight. There were a lot of must have moved around 100 long boxes while I was going through all of this stuff for a couple hours and chatting with this dude and getting to know him and kind of talking about our history with it. He was a super great guy who told me that he's still going to be doing shows. So one of the shows that Marty has coming up is in mid-October. And so hopefully we'll be able to see him there. But I was going to go through what I picked up at the store in this video for my first and sadly last trip to Comics and More. So let's get into it. So first up, one of the things that he told me when I walked in the store was there were some, most of the, pretty much everything in the store was either like $1 or $5. And some of the better books were like half off, stuff that he was going to hold on to go take to shows and stuff like that. And so I have a chunk of Captain America in this Epic collection, 333 through 350, and I have a couple of the issues from this, but a majority of it is in this. And so in that first section of the store that I got to, I was able to pick up the rest of the single issues from that trade. So I got Captain America 333, have 334 already, so got 335, 336, 337, and these are all like really nice copies. 338, have 339 already, so I got 340, have 341 and 342, so I picked up 343, 344, 345, have 346, so I grabbed 347, 348, and 349, which closed out this trade. So some lucky kid on Halloween is possibly going to get some classic, what is it? Are these Zek? I know it's Grunwald writing it. I've actually never read this stuff. I went back and kind of like have been piecing together a cap run, and this was like a chunk that I admittedly had finished in the trade, but like I adore single issues and prefer the newsprint and the feel of it and all that stuff. So being able to pick up those at a pretty discounted rate was very exciting for me. So while I was in the store, before I got into the rest of the dollar boxes, one of the things that I saw up on the wall, which was like wild to me, was I saw this t-shirt with this corner box on it of Adam Warlock, and it has this little DW down there. And I was like, I have a ton of these Marvel comic corner boxes that I've commissioned from my buddy who lives in New York, or he might not live in New York anymore, might have moved. And I'm not sure, maybe Pennsylvania now. Anyways, he does these great corner boxes, and I have a bunch of them in the room. So I am going to pause here for a second and show you some more of the rooms than you've ever seen before by taking a look at all the Daniel White pieces that I have. So here is some of Daniel's work that he's done for me. These are a couple corner box commissions, Gladiator and Mystique turning into Senator Kelly. Up there you've got a Magneto and a Banshee. I love Banshee. Let's see, over here, that Uncanny X-Men number 115 is like my all-time favorite cover. I love Sauron. So there's a Corsair, big Starjammer fan. There is a Sauron. And then over here there is a Gambit and a Archangel that he did for me. And down there is a Nightcrawler that he did for me. On the wall that I normally talk in front of, just because of how the room's laid out, is a recreation he did of Uncanny 243, which I love. And like the best compliment that I can possibly give Daniel's work, as far as I'm concerned, is like every time that I look at the corner box drawings he does for me, it makes me want to pull all of the figures down off the wall and play with them. And so here's a sweet Cable and Bishop he did for me. A Forge, because Forge is one of my favorite underrated X-Men. There's a Chamber over there. There's an Uncanny X-Men like cover piece that he did, which I think is awesome, that I picked up a few years ago. And then there is a Beast, which I have like with my, it's kind of the like well, it's part of the Avengers section of the room. And then there's a Shadowcat where she's phasing through the corner box, which is awesome. This side of the room is what I'm looking at 9 times out of 10 when I'm filming. It's got like my Caps and Fantastic Fours, and I'll do a room tour one of these days to kind of show it off in a wider scope. But there's a little team card there, like the old Marvel trading cards, and then a Jean corner box that he did for me. And then here I've got an X Factor Cyclops that he did as a Christmas present years back, which I adore and is in my office, which is also down in the basement. All right, so those are all the Daniel White pieces that I have. Really love his art style. I think I mentioned it in there, but like his stuff sort of like makes me want to play with my toys, which is like the highest compliment that I could possibly give someone's art, is like, oh man, this makes me want to like pull down all the figures from off the shelves and have a battle with Hank. And so I saw a couple of these, like there was a Punisher and a Deathlock, and I was like, I took a picture and I sent it to Daniel because I was like, oh, I hope somebody didn't like pull this off the internet. But it turns out that Chris, the owner of the shop, like also has never met Daniel in person. I haven't either, but loves his work. And so years back was like, hey man, can I like pay to get your stuff put on t-shirts? And so like when I was like, hey, how much are those shirts? He was like, oh, these have a really cool story. And he was like, they're by this artist. And I was like, Daniel White. And he was like, oh, you know Daniel too? So that was very nice to have this kind of like great moment. So Daniel online goes by Birds and Boxes, and I will I'll put his like Instagram handle and stuff like that in the description, I guess, down below, because I think his art is great and I wish more people would be hip to it. So that's that. Let me grab the next stack. Up next, I was looking to cheaply fill some of my Thor run. I have all of the Walt Simon stuff, which starts in 1983. I've read it before. I love it. I have a smattering of issues from like late 100s, early 200s. And I was looking to try to like kick off reading Thor in the Corner Box Classics section of it a little bit earlier, now that I'm in I think I'm finishing up in the next episode, December of 81, and starting January of 82. So I wanted to kind of throw Thor into that. So I was looking to kind of pad that pre-Walt Simonson Thor run. So I picked up Thor 237, and I have 238. I actually read it yesterday during Hank's nap, and was bummed that I didn't have part 1. And it's a fun, like, Thor takes on Ulik or Ulik. I'm not 100% sure how it's pronounced, because, you know, I don't know if he's made any cartoon appearances, and he definitely hasn't made any appearances in the MCU. But I was pretty jazzed to find this, you know, in a dollar box. So pretty excited to have that. Still keeping an eye out for 239, which I think ends that story arc. So I have part 1 and part 2. Now I'm just keeping my eyes peeled for part 3. Picked up 271 because I was pretty jazzed that it had Nick Fury, and obviously it's an Iron Man team-up issue. It's got Beast on the cover, and, you know, that's who Hank's named after. So I'm a big fan. I'm on the lookout for 316 because that's an Iron Man team-up issue, but this is the second part of it, 317. So one day I will be able to read this once I have 316, so I can fully grasp what's going on. Then I got 322, 323, and these are all like really good-looking copies of stuff that was in like dollar bins, and I was like, are you sure that these are just, and he was like, yeah, he's just, I want it out of here. 324, 325, 326, which is a pretty fantastic and cool cover right there. 327, missing 328, so I got to keep my eyes peeled for that one. But I picked up 329, 330, 331, 332, and then I have already 333 through 335, and so I picked up, I'd been looking for this one because this is like the issue right before Simonson takes over and the famous Beta Ray Bill cover. So this is issue 336. Then I grabbed King Size Annual number 10 from 1982, and then I grabbed issues 501 and 502. I was pretty excited to find 502 because I'd had my eye on it. I'd been doing this like years long read of all the X-Men stuff again while I was like listening to music with it from the time period. And I just wrapped up the Onslaught storyline from 1996. And this, while it doesn't have the Onslaught banner, was like contained in the omnibus. And it was the only issue that I didn't have that was in the omnibus. I have everything else that was included in that. And I didn't like, I'm just like, I can for sure find this in a quarter bin somewhere. So let's, you know, stick with that. So those are the Thors that I've picked up, which I was pretty excited about. Then, let's see. In, again, like dollar and quarter bins, found some early Miller Daredevils with 164, 166, and 167. Now, admittedly, this one's like stained on the cover, and one of the, like the centerfold is detached, so I'll keep an eye out for a better copy, but it's nice to have it in here. I have all that stuff in trade, but I always like to have the single issues. You'll hear me say that a lot. Marvel Fanfare number 6. Always really dug this. It's creepy Scarlet Witch cover. And then I have like my Amazing Spider-Man collection is like mostly trade, and I've been trying to, you know, turn those over, but I'm just happy to be able to read the stories, and I find them how I find them. I'm not out here like breaking the bank. I can't really to get them, and so I found this issue 262, which I love and also hate the cover at the exact same time. It's such a weird such a weird cover. But there it is. I was like happy to have that because it's so dumb that it's probably more expensive at cons and online than it ever should be. And then I picked up $3.49, and I'm trying to fill a run of Spider-Man Unlimiteds. I found issue number 2, which I was pretty happy about. It's the conclusion of the Maximum Carnage storyline, so that's a, must-have. I have the first omnibus of Spectacular Spider-Man, so I'm not like actively looking for the first 41 issues of that series, but if I find them cheap, I like to grab them. And look at how, I mean, come on, Spider-Man versus the Beetle, it's awesome. Then I found a copy of number 60, which I have, but my copy of issue number 60 looked like it had been run over by a car and left out in a puddle. So I was pretty happy to find a nice, clean copy of that. And then my Spectacular run is almost complete, but I am like missing some of the late like 200s, and so 2 of them that I was missing was 253 and 256 from the late 90s. So I'm always happy when I find those, because I imagine like, when you go to conventions and stuff like that, it seems like everybody wants to bring like Silver and Bronze Age stuff and nothing really modern, unless it's like hot books or variants. And so it's like the days of like going to a con and actually having booths with a lot of comics is a rarity, and it's certainly a rarity for anybody to like lug boxes out to big conventions. For guys like me to just fill their runs on the cheap because they're readers, like I'm a reader. And then I picked these up because this weekend we're actually going to a show that I got a free ticket from my comic book shop, and Jim Salicrup's going to be there, who I'm excited to have signed. I'm having him sign my Dark Phoenix Saga trade because I have the entire creative team signing that, and I'm also going to have him sign this X-Men State Fair in Texas thing that he wrote, which is a ridiculously fun X-Men story that was published as an advertising supplement for the Dallas Times-Herald. And so when I'm like, I'm an X-Men completionist, I mean it. But I'm obviously going to have Hank with me. Hank's favorite superhero is Spidey. And so I found these Spidey super stories, and Hank loves the lizards. So there's this fun lizard one that I was hoping to possibly get signed by Jim Salicrup for Henry. So now we're on to the portion of what I found that will make my buddy Jerry very happy. The button's not working. It never works. So one of my pals from my old shop, Jerry, he was one of the groomsmen in my wedding, an all-around good dude. He loves the Micronauts, and he would always, Sean, you got to read the Micronauts. And so last week when Hank and I pedaled up to A to Z, our local shop, they had a number 1 on the wall, and I was like, what better time than Wednesday in September to pick up Micronauts number 1. And I read it. The only issues of Micronauts that I'd ever read before that were 37, which I covered in the Corner Box Classics, which is one where the Micronauts show up in the Danger Room, and Nightcrawler's featured. Nightcrawler is my favorite comic book character of all time. So I had to have that one. And when I was reading years back, when I had finally collected all of John Byrne's Fantastic Four run, I was reading that on my lunch breaks at work. I'd take 2 issues with me every day, and I'd read those issues in the courtyard of my work. And Micronauts 41 crosses over with that Fantastic Four story. So I had that issue and just a couple other ones that I had picked up because I like the covers or whatever. So while I was going through all these boxes today, I found a whole lot of Micronauts, and now I think I'm only a few issues away because I picked up 2, 3, have 4 and 5, got 6, 7, spent 3 hours looking through 100 long boxes and could not find issues 8 and 9. So those are on the list. But I found 10. And I mean, these are just like fantastic covers. It looks super fun. You know, it's got Michael Golden pencils in that first thing. And then, you know, written by Bill Mantlo. And there's some Gil Kane stuff in here. And it ends with Butch Guice. It's like all around good stuff. And, you know, number 11. Number 12. 13. 14. 15, 16, which has Psycho Man and the Fantastic Four showing up in it, 17, 18, 19, 20, and I absolutely love this cover. They're like clearly in a grocery store because there's a box of post grape nuts there, and you can see the nutritional facts on the side of the box, and you can see Ant-Man's clearly in this issue, which should be a ton of fun. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, which has a great Nick Fury Hydra cover. Like, that is pretty fantastic. 27. Did not find 28 or 29, so I'll keep those on the list. 30. 31. 32. 33. 34, 35, the origin of the microverse, which I'm excited for. 36, I obviously have 37, 38, 39, 40. 41 is the one where it crosses over with, they're like in Latveria, so that's filed away actually with my Fantastic Four stuff, kind of where it falls in the story order. So now that I have most of the Micronauts running, we'll have to have a spot for Micronauts now, as opposed to just keeping them kind of, you know, the 37 was where it fell in X-Men continuity, and 41 was where it fell in Fantastic Four continuity, because that's how I did stuff for a while. There was like High Fidelity clearly impacted me with the chronological order. 42, 43, missing 44, but got 45, 46, 47. These covers are just great. 48, 49, 50, I already owned 51, so 52, 53, which like, they're dressed up like old-timey gangsters, which gave me a like, very, like as I was looking at this cover when I was in the shop, it made me think of the episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, when Picard's like the detective guy. Anyways, Micronauts 54, missing 55, but I found 56, and then 57, which my buddy Jerry was like, that is such a fantastic, it's like the best issue of Micronauts. They didn't have it. I searched and searched and searched for it, but I'm still on the hunt for that one. I have 58, and I luckily found 59, which is the last issue of the first volume, and last issues are always like more expensive than they should be. Obviously, low print run if the book's not selling, you know, so if the, you know, becomes a little bit harder to find. So that was a really fun afternoon at Comics and More, which, you know, I guess having one fun afternoon at Comics and More is better than having none. And I will say it was really like, everybody was super chatty in the store, which was really nice. And everybody kind of started to look out for each other, like, because there were so many boxes. We were kind of all attacking it kind of in this inward way. And so pretty soon everybody just kind of got to know each other And it was like, oh, you're looking for this? Here's some of these, which I always like. I love that, as opposed to like, you know, it can go one of two ways. You either get people that are like, oh, you're looking for this? Cool. Here you go. Or it's like people are hoarding it like they're Gollum. And so I was happy that there was no hoarding like they were Gollum. So that was a fun-filled afternoon at Comics and More, and I appreciate having at least one and getting all these great comics to read. So that was nice. So that is this episode of BaseMint Comics, and tomorrow is Wednesday, so hopefully we will have a new episode of Hank and I biking up to the shop. So thanks for taking this ride with us, and I will see you in the next one. Oh, and you know, let me know if you dug any of this stuff. Comment, subscribe.